Nakatani versus Inoue, or Inoue versus Nakatani. Inoue comes out with the victory. My thoughts, it needs an immediate rematch, no fluffs between it, regardless of whether it's for the 4 belts or not, because that fight was close. So close on the technical standpoint of it, but when it comes to actually scoring the scorecards, yes, Inoue did win 7 or 8, right? But that I had it 7-5, I think. I woke up too early for this, right? But the reason why it needs an immediate rematch is that both of these guys, when they went in, they were too friendly with each other. Inoue was too friendly that he actually ended up breaking down towards the later rounds. And Nakatani was too friendly that he let Inoue score most of those early rounds. Right now, the thing about it is that as soon as the bell rang, Nakatani was in control of the fight. He just didn't know it. Either he didn't know it or he was too cautious. He pretty much had the foot positioning, had the they were fighting towards the center of the ring, I believe, but he had the foot positioning. He also had the reach advantage. The hand speed went to Inoue, but his reaction time, we're talking about Nakatani's reaction time, was almost just as quick as Inoue's. Now, Inoue's boxing IQ was about 2 steps ahead of Nakatani. Now, how would you calculate that? You would calculate that by how Nakatani would place his punches, right? So when Inoue was stepping in, Nakatani had every opportunity to just touch Inoue, right? But he was almost waiting to land a big one-shot, like one-punch spectacular knockout, right? Even though both guys had already lost a little bit of focus, being too friendly towards each other, that when you lose that kind of focus, like your what do you call it? Your timing, your reaction time is just off by a hair, right? And so he needed to quit playing games, quit being too friendly, and then not looking for a one-punch knockout when it came to those early rounds, because he did have the dominant foot positioning. He had the leg length to control the distance, right? So in the beginning, he was a little too wide, which I can't show you. I would be able to demonstrate it in real life, but I'm not going to, right? How you would use your leg length to control the guy, but when it's too long, it's almost like you give away your positioning, if that makes any sense. I've talked about this a while ago, many years. And so he needed to not be as low, but he also needed to just land punches. Pity pat, right? I'm not going to say pity pat, because you don't want a guy to pity pat, but there was a lot of opportunities for him, Nakatani, to throw soft and medium punches to deter Inoue, to take control of those early rounds, right? And so for Inoue, because that didn't happen, we actually don't know how he would have adjusted, right? But towards the end of the fight, like when Nakatani was making those adjustments, when I'm talking about IQ, he was making the adjustments a little too late, like 2 steps, right? It needed to be 1 step or just make the adjustment right there. And I blame this probably on his trainer. What was it, Rudy something? Whatever it was. I guess he chose to pick an American trainer for this. I don't know who Nakatani chooses for his trainer, or who he's had training him for however long. But there are instances where if you actually had a guy with better technical teachings that Nakatani could have ran away with this fight 8-4 on his side in winning this, which is why I want an immediate rematch, because he can beat Inoue rather easily in the rematch, depending on, I mean, he could have beat him in this one rather easily, right? Because one, we're kind of speculating on how Inoue would have adjusted against things that didn't happen or whatever it is, right? And so when you're talking about his adjustments that he made in the first fight, we're talking about right now, Nakatani had the chance to beat him 8-4 by just throwing some of the softer punches to Inoue's shoulders, or even his head, right? But even towards the shoulders is what I'm talking about, because he had the dominant foot positioning, and then Inoue had to take the dangerous route of going on the inside. And I thought he did it beautifully, right? I thought it was probably one of the best technical fights I've seen in a very long time. Maybe, I'm not gonna say, maybe Usyk, right? The last other Usyk Fury 1 and 2. Even though I had those scored wild for, damage and not for landed punches. But I mean, this one, man, I think both guys let it slip because they were too friendly. And like I said, like that, being too friendly with each other, it's not, you saw Inoue break down towards the end because he was being too friendly. And then you saw Nakatani give up too many of those early rounds for trying to be too cautious or even too friendly. And it seemed as though that fight really got started around round 5, right? And so you missed out on the first 4, really. So I think that deserves an immediate rematch, but we know how boxing works. They want all the belts, they want all of this and that and that. I think if the money is the same with the Saudis, it really should just be immediate. Thanks for watching.